believe as human beings, for us to be our best selves, we need to understand and have internally freedom and authority. And we have to have the freedom and authority to act or produce the results that we want. And that's first created internally and then spoken and developed externally. That's liberation to me. Like that is that essence where I am not reliant on other people from a mental or emotional standpoint, not draining those others around me, right? To try to replace something. I'm here and I'm giving as much as I'm getting, and it's this flow. And we're all regulated. We're all kind of anchor humans in a way.
Welcome to the Zen Stoic Path, where we share a modern take on timeless wisdom to help you develop unshakable inner peace so that you can live a liberated life. I'm your host, Victor Pierantoni, and on this special segment of our episodes, we go into the liberated life interviews, where we go outside the bounds of Zen Stoic philosophy and talk to people who are exemplary in living a liberated life. Remember, Zen Stoic philosophy aims at liberation, but the philosophy itself is not liberation. And for this reason, this is why we have conversations to really open up the perspective. And on this episode, I have a very special guest. His name is Jeff Banman, and this guy is absolutely amazing. I just got done with my conversation with him, and it was mind-blowing. Mind-blowing and simple and practical simultaneously, because Jeff talks about how to regulate the central nervous system. Now, he has an extensive background, and everything that he discussed falls fully in line with Zen Stoic philosophy. It was a great conversation, a lot of ahas, a lot of breakthroughs. And so, here's a little bit about Jeff. Jeff is a recognized leader in the area of human performance and human behavior in high-stress environments, with over 30 years of experience across multiple domains, including the Fire Service, the U.S. Army, Special Operations Command, and the Central Intelligence Agency. Jeff now serves as the CEO for Brute Force Training. After conducting counterterrorism operations in over 30 countries, 2 combat zones, and multiple high-threat, non-permissive environments, Jeff has the privilege of dissecting human behavior at a micro level in order to enhance individual and team performance in some of the most intense moments imaginable. His study evaluated and developed algorithms for calculating minute shifts in heart rate variability against variable stressors, distinct practices for managing the central nervous system while under significant stress, and integrative techniques to help high-level operators remain fully present in order to navigate extreme situations. I'm telling you, everything in that bio, not only is it true, and he lives up to it, of course, but it is really profound the way that Jeff is able to regulate the central nervous system with a technique that he uses, that it all has to do with the breath. And his vision for what he wants to create in terms of a legacy is absolutely inspiring and amazing to be able to discuss in this conversation. So I really hope that you enjoy the episode. I loved the conversation, and I'm excited for you to hear all about it. Enjoy the episode. So Jeff, I was really curious about something that you had told me the first time that we talked, and it was this distinction between teaching and coaching. Because I know you and I both really enjoy helping people, and it's an important part of our lives. And that distinction, ever since we talked about it a few weeks ago, has stuck with me, and it's grown. So I'm curious how you came to that.
Shot right to the head. Oh, and it just sits there.
It's off the can of worms, man.
That's good.
And I go,
What I'm known for, walking in the room, dropping a grenade, and be like, bye.
I got
Not that
see you guys in a few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, man. No, I think, how I came to that. Back 2017, 18, 19, 20, 20-ish, those years. Coaching was the thing, right? And I hated it. Like, I literally got to the point where I'd get off calls and just be like, am I an awful human being because I just don't care? Like what's going, because that's totally not me, because I do care. I care immensely, right? I want to see people be successful in so many ways. But this idea of coaching, especially when it comes to life coaching or, any of that kind of genre, I'd really take a step back and be like, what am I doing? Like, why are we dealing with all of this stuff? One, and two, that's not my wheelhouse. Like really, really took some time to like, what is it that that I do and deliver that's unique in the world?
Mm.
And then how do I deliver it? And, really sat back and was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm not here to coach. I don't need to muddle around in somebody's head about what's in their way and what's not and what's working and what's not. Like, I know how to have the conversation to get the information, the intelligence I need. So we get that done. But I really sat back and like, no, I teach people. I mean, that's what I've done that for my whole life. Like, I am a teacher, and what I'm giving my people is a set of skills they need.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And, those are, self-regulation tools. Those are, central nervous system management regulation tools and techniques. And those are behavioral practices, right? That then ultimately result in producing the results that you want to produce, right? That's I stepped back and looked at it that way. And what that did for me is it allowed me to really focus what I was doing, get clear with my clients on what we were going to accomplish in a given period in time. Because I was having people linger for 6 months, a year, and I'm just like, can't you just go?
You just go do the thing.
Just go do the thing, right? And then I got really in touch with like what's important around someone having a therapist, not a coach, someone having the right support mechanisms to deal with what they're navigating. And so, it doesn't mean there's not necessarily coaching involved, right? But it's to me, it's more adding of wisdom along the way. I had a client who woke up every morning at 3 o'clock in the morning and has for 20 years, like brain running, firing, triggering, heading in a direction. And he's like, what do I do about this, man? I said, well, I'll tell you, why don't you try tonight when it happens, because it's going to happen, roll over and look, not at your wife, but like on the other side of the bed, as if you are standing there talking to yourself, and just ask yourself, like, what do you need right now? And then do whatever it says, right? And then just do whatever it says. If it says get up and go to work, then get your ass up and go to work. And he called me next morning laughing, and he's like, I don't know what kind of voodoo you're doing. He said, but literally I did exactly what you said. Woke up at 2:45, brain racing, rolled my head over, opened my eyes, looked, imagined me standing there and said, what do you need right now? And it looked right back at me and said, nothing. And I never went back to sleep for the first time in 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's not but see, to me, that's not a coaching thing. That's not like, we didn't have to go dive deep. We didn't have to like unpack. Why are you waking up? You're going to. We all have got our things. Like, I spent plenty of time in the self-development space and world, and I think there's a crap ton of time wasted there. There's value, and there's a crap ton of time wasted, right? So it's equally balanced. But yeah, man, so I don't know. That's a long way to say that I really realized for myself, one, I'm not a coach because in the time we have, one, I don't want to take a bunch of time. I don't want an hour session to go through things. We need 10, 20 minutes, check in. Are you doing the skills? Are you executing what we set out to execute? Do you need any other support? What's coming up? Right? And move on. And so one, it increases the touch points I have with my clients, or had, with my clients, because we can resolve things over text, voice text, or get on a call if we need to. So it kind of closes the gap. It's not like this wait for an hour, wait for the next day, and wait for it streamlined the way we could communicate and effectively support each other along the way and work as a team. And it put me in the wheelhouse of teaching, because I find a lot of coaches, I know a lot of coaches, I've sat in a lot of coaching calls for a lot of people. I think the best way to assess my coach or my teacher, record your next call and then literally assess how much time you spoke. And if you spoke more than 10% of that call, you're teaching, you're not coaching.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, it's just simple mechanism. Maybe I'll give you 15. Maybe if it's an initial call or you're working on something, maybe 20. But if your mouth is open running more than 20% of the time, you're not coaching.
Yeah.
You're not.
It's interesting that you say that, because following our first conversation, I started noticing that. And at the moment, right, as this is being recorded, I'm currently running an integration process of people that I've certified and trained in neuro-linguistic programming and timeline therapy. And I'm also teaching them how to do coaching calls, because I've done this for like the last decade. And as I'm teaching them, I had a one-on-one check-in with one of my students, and she was like, well, I wonder, and I start to compare myself to you because of how you show up on calls. And I stopped her. I was like, I'm not doing just coaching on those calls. I'm actually mainly teaching. And there's portions of those calls where I'll do coaching. What I showed you the other day is actually just more a product of listening and being really curious about that person and letting them kind of drive the ship, and you just having those little guideposts, like they'll answer their own question. And that was the moment I realized, like, oh, that's actually my zone. It's the teaching zone. So it was
and it's
helpful, man.
so freeing too. Yeah. And it's so freeing when you're just like, oh no, this is and it drops you right in. And I wish more people would, because listen, I know same coaches I know, they're like, no offense, awful coaches because they're talking the whole time.
Right.
They're not awful people, and they've got real value and real wisdom and real things to share. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not that they shouldn't be on the call, but it's the context they've created for the call that matters. And,
that's right.
And so, I know all kinds of people that are just phenomenal in so many ways, and like so deeply knowledgeable. And I think that's the thing, marketing wise, I think there's a little, what I have found there is people are more willing to connect with you if you have a skill or something to share and offer and give and teach, rather than like, let's just regurgitate our crap. Let's go through and let's look at, what I mean? Like,
yeah, it has its usefulness until it's no longer useful, right? Until it's lighting up the neurology and actually creating reinforcing negative emotions about their crap, so to speak. And then you go.
Right. And then ebbing and flow. And even if you want to do a hybrid or something, if you define that in context, it's like, okay, this week's coaching session, this week's teach session, and then you're coaching on the things that you taught, and you're unpacking that, and were they able to perform or execute, or what, so you can also just play with the sprinkles of it. But yeah, man, I think most people, if they really were honest, were like, no, I want to teach. You get into coaching because you have something to say or share. It's teaching, you know what I mean? Because you've learned something, you're excited about it, and you want to share that. And so, the person coming in, so you don't ask questions, you're not in the state of, you haven't kind of run the spike of curiosity to be able to sit back in your own space and be like, okay, all I'm going to do for the next hour is ask a few questions and listen.
That's right.
It's discipline, man. That takes something.
It really does. Yeah. I started, one of my techniques earlier in my coaching career to prevent myself from speaking is I just have these headphones that I had a pair over here, but basically the microphone flips down and that's when you're on, and it flips up and that means you're off. And I would just keep that thing up most of the call just to like prevent myself from like being like, well, this is what. So that was a very helpful tool back in those days. But what I realized I was doing is I was actually ignoring the fact that I wanted to teach something. And instead I was like putting myself in that box of being a coach. And now I'm glad I had learned that skill because it's really helped me to understand human beings at a totally different level. And I love that I now have this realization of like, teaching is where my zone is. That's where I have the most fun. It's where I get the best results. Because now all of my students, because they're learning the skill of coaching in this process that we're doing, they're coaching each other and they're getting the same caliber of results that they would have gotten coaching with me. And to me, that's phenomenal, being able to see that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think there's great, I think it's like I just had a call with my publisher today, right? On the first book and timing and when we're going to roll and stuff. And it's been interesting. I've been writing for probably 10, 12 years. Could have totally published, by now. And it wasn't because I was scared, and it wasn't because of anything else. What I realized was what I had to say was incomplete. And my gut knew it, right? And now it's ready. And now I'm ready to launch. And so
awesome, man.
Yeah, man, I'm stoked about it. Really excited.
So what are you writing about now? Like what's the book that's coming out?
So the book that's coming out, and we're bouncing on titles, but this is under the Anchor Human project, right? This is the book will probably be called Anchor Human. I was like, that's the name of the book. That's the title of the book. It's funny. Somebody the other day were like, ooh, the untethered soul of the anchor human. I like it.
It's a nice, yeah. It's
But
it's
yeah, it's not, well, I mean, so yeah, so the book is the Anchor Human, and it will fall under the Anchor Human Project, and it's very much identifying around central nervous system regulation, but really where the origination of dysregulation comes from. And so, if we look at our primary anchors, safe, love, trust, pride, joy, like all those primary anchors, culturally, were developed to externalize them. To look for validation for those elsewhere, mom, dad, sister, brother, family members, friends, through our whole life, and then eventually partner and et cetera. And, my version of the title was "Learn to Fly Your Own Damn Kite." I used to, when I was a kid, we used to get on to Nags Head, North Carolina for the summers. They got these big ass sand dunes, and these magical kites, like not just like your Walmart paper kite. Like these things are, they're hooking and jiving, they're moving feet, controls, hand controls. These kites are just dancing beautifully through the sky. And I can remember as a kid being mesmerized by the kite, but also the flyer, like just watching this relationship between the flyer and the kite, and watching them read the conditions and know where to go and know how to move, and just this freedom of expression in this way. And as I was writing this book, I was like, that's it. I mean, we are all our own kite. We are these beautiful creatures who really want to express ourselves in whatever way that is, and however that is, right? And we want that freedom to do that. Problem is, we've been developed to go, okay, hey, Victor, fly my kite, because I'm going to go be pretty. You know what I mean? I'm going to go be cool. I'm going to go do these things. But I need you to fly my kite like this so I can do this. It's never going to work, right? And so, this process is around re-anchoring all of our primary anchors internally versus externally. But really, the core of it deals with that anchor of safety, because I've said this now for over a decade. From all the work that I've done, there's only one question that matters, and that's, am I safe? That's it. Everything else on top is bullshit. Sorry. It just is. I mean, honestly, you spend 20 years in therapy.
Yeah.
And what we're going to discover is you have a really jacked up anchor of safety. That's what we're going to do. Right. And so that's really the primary piece of this whole component, is learning to re-anchor that sense of safe in self, because today, millions of years ago, quote unquote, no big deal. Safe was, can I leave the cave, go get food, come back, right? There was one anchor, there was one modality of safety, and that was really physical. That was it. It was all we had to deal with. Today, the complexity of, am I safe, is far too great for any human to deal with. Am I safe to say this, do this, be this, share this, hug you, not hug you, put my hand on my shoulder, shake your hand, not shake your hand, look at you, not look at you? Like, this is too much. And it's no wonder why anxiety is through the roof, nervous is through the roof. Kids are shutting down. Everybody's locked in their phone. The world is radically unsafe in every possible way, even in your home, in your partnerships, in your relationships, in your family. You are radically unsafe 24/7. Sorry. You know what I mean? And so the anchored human is really about dissecting the pieces to become truly understand how important regulating your central nervous system is. And when it is dysregulated, 9 times out of 10, it's because that anchor is not internalized, it's externalized, and something's messing with it.
That's fascinating. So what's like an example of how somebody regulates the central nervous system when they're feeling safe, let's say socially or emotionally?
Totally. I mean, it's always funny. I'll teach, for a matter of fact, fly tomorrow to North Carolina and to teach a class to the Air Force. And I will teach 4 hours, Wednesday. And I'll look at the end of the class and I'll say, okay, cool. We just spent 4 hours together. Really, all I did was teach how to breathe. I mean, the knowledge and the wisdom surrounding it really anchors right in everything. But at the end of the day, in practice, it is really nothing more than a structured breathwork process. And it's a breathwork I've taught for years to, people operating around the world doing crazy stuff, SEAL team guys, tier 1 operators, intelligence people. Like, it's just been the core. And what I tend to refer to it as the return to original breath. So if you look at a child breathing, very much a belly breather. And this comes out of old Japanese traditions. And then I went in and unpacked and did a bunch more research. And basically the model is there's two primary things that have to happen in order to kind of trigger safe in the system. And it's an equal balance. And so I have to know I'm capable of taking control, and then I have to be willing to give control up. Okay? And it's this constant dance, right? And so the way we do that with the breath is we get very distinct in through the nose, all the way down on the diaphragm, like hyper intentional, where you're putting that breath all the way down to the diaphragm, feeling that diaphragm extend, push it out, hold for a minute. Like I'm in positive control to give my system what it needs, right? And then the aspect of giving up control is relaxing the jaw, opening the mouth, and literally letting breath leave the body on its own at its own pace, which is not easy to do. We're trained to be chest breathers. If you're not doing yoga, if you're not a breath person, like you'll do that, you'll open your mouth and nothing will come out and you'll be like, what's the problem? You know what I mean? You'll have to force it out. But it just shows you how much we've kind of skewed the system here through life, right? And the ticket to that is 3 to 5 minutes a day, 3 to 5 times a day, consistently for 2-3 weeks, and your body will actually begin to trigger to breathing that way because it wants to. That's how it came. That's how you showed up, breathing that way. And if you think up to about 7, we are just nothing more than sensing, energetic beings, right? We're sensation driven, energy driven. We're not emotional driven, which is just a label. We're not any of these things. We're just raw nerves collecting energy from around us,
absorbing everything at the same time.
Yeah. If you're anxious today, I'm sorry, you didn't come anxious. Mom or dad was anxious and they gave it to you. Merry Christmas. Here's your present,
Not the gift that keeps on giving, I'll tell you that.
Always, right? I mean, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Yay, mom and dad. Thanks. And they weren't anxious. They got it from, you know what I mean? Like this is what happens. And so I'm a big proponent of eliminating, emotional labeling up till about age 7. My little guy, if he's kind of off or, not really just kind of in that space, I'll ask him and say, hey, buddy, what's going on? You look a little tense. Look like you got some tension going on in the system, or find some other way to describe what I'm observing rather than a label. And then ask them course of action. Like, hey man, what do you want to do? You want to go play? You want to wrestle? You want to run around? And some of these will look at me and be like, no, I just want to snuggle. I'm like, okay, hey man, he's not feeling safe, or he's feeling off, or he's unable to anchor himself in that moment. So he needs some support, right? And so the support is not doing for him. It's then bringing him in. We'll snuggle up. I'll bring him in and I just sit and do my rhythmic breathing. And you'll watch in about 2 minutes, he's fine, off playing. And so, part of this anchored, if there's one thing I can leave behind on this planet, I've come to this final choice now. Out of this anchored human project is kind of multiple tiers. There's the anchored leader, there's the anchored partner, right? There's a couple different versions that you'll be able to kind of expand into really for who you are. But it's the anchored birth is really my thing I'd love to leave behind, because that's the origination of safe.
The anchored birth.
Yeah. The anchored birth. Yeah. I mean, that's the point of origination, right? And so, birth in womb, in utero, for the most part, your body, you as a human know how to regulate. You know how to disperse energy and move and everything else, because you're wrapped in this container of safe. You're there. You're okay. You don't have any other worries. Then you come into the world and you enter this room full of energy. Nurses, doctors, parents, everybody, energy. Yeah, you're swiped off, you're set on the table, you're injected with stuff, you're passed around, you're, like chaos. And then you're handed it back to mom or dad or whatever it might be, depending upon how your birth cycle is. If you have a more natural birth, rad, but still you're coming into everybody else's energy as the wildly raw nerve into an entire new world that you know nothing about, nor does your system know how to regulate any of it. So if mom, dad, nurse, doctor, if everybody in the room is a regulated, anchored human being, we are now receiving child into an anchored space. Child can go to mom or dad, rhythmic breathing process, child now assimilates, and now the system is being trained to re-anchor back to I'm okay and I'm safe, not because of mom or dad, because I now have that tool that I had here, I now have externally. And that creates a different foundation to go from. You know, I had little man for the first 4 hours on my chest doing rhythmic breathing, you know, when he was born. And
That's amazing.
I'm confident it made a world of difference.
Oh, absolutely. Right. The whole foundation of their life has started from that place, right? And that and building off of that, because when I do work with people in terms of releasing all their emotions, it's not an emotion that they're experiencing right here in the now based on what triggers them in the environment. It's a compounding of the first time they felt it and never processed it. And it's like, we've got a whole shitload of emotional debt here that we're eradicating because it wasn't processed. There weren't any tools in order to do so. And now
you had no idea. And you had no logic capability. It's all energy. It's all sensation based, right? I mean, I remember now more about my child than I ever did before, because I'm more connected to the sensations and the triggers that come up. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And then I will actually begin to remember, and I'm able to unpack what occurred in a different way versus kind of like guessing and creating what may have happened, right? Well, yeah, man. I mean, it's lodged in the system.
It most definitely. Well, I know I'll definitely be reaching out to you whenever my lady and I are having kids. Just so we
that's. I mean, I just I'm like, if there's one thing I could leave behind on this planet of value, what would it be? And that's it, really. If I could get to the state where doctors, nurses, and parents, where everybody is in a rhythmic breathing cycle, is settled and regulated, is ready to receive the child into life, right, into this world. And that's the focus. The primary focus of those few moments are giving child the opportunity to regulate and re-anchor now from womb to life, to world. Dude, I would be, what, like,
that's the legacy right there.
I would have done something. You know what I mean? Like, at all the shit that I've done, I would have really done something, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, and leaders and partners and everybody else. I mean, this is where we get jacked up, nose down. You know what I mean? Because that's what that whole project's about. Really, I have learned over time, and I kind of like saying is, learn to quiet the body, and the mind will follow. You know, we're operating in reverse too much, in my opinion. We're trying to stay up here when really most of the stuff is all down here. So
it's really interesting, because usually people will think of it the other way, or they'll attempt to operate in the other way. If I can just quiet my mind, then my body will relax. No,
my body will listen, right? Well, I mean, but you think about it, right? Origination of psychology. You know, I mean, we had this mind, this voice in our heads talking to us that was getting confusing, and probably not equipped to handle the complexities of things that were going on. So it did what it does, which is start the argument in the head, right? And we had to find a way to help support people with it, because I'm sure early days it got really gnarly. You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, it's gnarly today. Think of what it was like, 200 years ago. It's still pretty gnarly. So, as you see people trying, this is all they knew. We didn't have science. We didn't have all the understanding that the heart and the gut have so many receptors to it, right? That you actually have a set of minds and the whole system that are, collecting and processing and interpreting information, not just what's going on upstairs. And, so it makes sense to where we've come. But I think if you really are in the right communities today, you're seeing more and more this kind of nose down approach to, hey, wait a minute, let's dive into the rest of this and start to work here, start to give the body what it needs via breath, right? Because that's the one thing you can control, and help regulate the system and navigate the things. And then, I always kind of frame it as you're either regulated or dysregulated. And the map for that is, if I'm regulated, my internal state is matching up with my external conditions. If I'm running into a burning building to come get your butt, you want Jeff, fired up a little bit, right? If we're on the two-way range operating around the world, you want Jeff at a heightened space. However, dinner time, you don't want Jeff in a heightened space, right? So if I'm able to regulate myself distinctly and take on the responsibility for where I am, then I'm able to stay in this regulated space. And dysregulated is really nothing more than my internal state is not matching the external conditions, right? I'm either over or under what's in front of me. And so pause to just 30 seconds of breath, that regulation system, eyes open, I'm anchoring into the present, right? I'm here, I'm okay, cool. Oh, I am okay. I don't need to have all that with me, right? And so it ain't rocket science, and it ain't super difficult. It just requires some discipline.
Yeah, it requires some discipline, requires some, some focus into that. And I think what's really interesting about what you're saying here is that it seems like when somebody's nervous system is dysregulated, they're not responding to the direct experience of their life. They're responding to maybe an abstraction or a conceptualization about life. So they're not actually here in the present. And what's interesting about Zen Stoic philosophy, which is the philosophy that I pioneered to bring these two things into hybrid, is the whole purpose of it is it revolves all around intention, and intentions that point us into the direct experience of right now are what are called the four intentions. And then intentions that point us out into abstraction or into conceptualization are the delusions. And it's really, are your intentions the one thing that you cannot hide from yourself, even if you lie to the world? Are they pointing to your experience of now, or are they pointing to some abstract idea of life rather than actually being here? And it seems like this breathing brings you back into like physiologically here, not just mentally and emotionally. That's actually
Well, and it's great for people that have a hard time. I don't. Book 2 is titled "Fuck Meditation," which is hilarious because every client that came to me from like 2019 to 2021 all ask me this exact same question up front. They were like, "You're not going to make me meditate, are you?" And I'm like, not like you think.
Not like that.
Like I like it. Yeah. But it really was curious because, a lot of people struggle. I mean, a lot of people get in their eyes struggled. And so this practice that we do, that I work with, a lot of it's eyes open, because there's that third component to the anchoring into the present, right? That tells me, okay, I can look around, I can be present to the squirrel running the tree. I'm okay, right? All right, I'm good. And the body starts to sit in. And then I'm anchoring that by eyes open. Yes, I'm okay. I'm safe,
Beautiful.
And literally, there's a progression to that over time where you actually begin to kind of drop your eyes, because your eyes are your threat detection system. I mean, out of my world, getting guys out of my world, out of the special operations world, or, this space, so meditate, this is not easy, because they're not dropping their threat detection system. And so if you work on this process where you go from straight out 45 degrees, down a little bit more, down a little bit more, you can actually begin to progress yourself to an eyes closed meditation the same way. And that's where you can start to really begin to re-anchor aspects internally, right? That's where you can begin to kind of come inside. But, you have to answer the physical question first, because that's the originating question of safe. Can I leave the cave? Am I safe? You have to always answer physicality first. Then you can begin to deal with it. Am I emotionally safe? Am I spiritually safe? Am I mentally safe? Am I safe in all these other corridors? But you really have to check in and get comfortable with your surroundings. I mean, I've had clients move in the middle of our work and literally had them do the technique in every room in their house to find their safe room, the place that they felt absolutely best, to reorient safety to the home itself in its entirety, but then to find their space that they would then have their practice, have their space, you know what I mean? They have to have their time in. It's so important, man. And we just zip by it. And then we wonder why things aren't working. Next time you get on a client call, have this question and ask them, where do you not feel safe? And just shut up. Cause you know what I mean? Like, it's coming.
Oh yeah.
And deal with that one. I mean, cause listen, I'm the kind of guy, I just want to get to it. I want to get to it for me. I want to get to it for you. We can spend the next year bouncing through all the things. Or where are you not safe? Okay, cool. You're not safe there. All the behaviors, that come from this anchor of safety, just jacked up for all of us. Here's the stream of behaviors that come from that. Okay, cool. But we're going to be dealing down here. Like we know the anchor, and then we know the behavioral patterns that erupt from that anchor because everything's getting pinged. I mean, one of my clients is taking his third company public. No wonder he's the best publicly traded CEO in the freaking planet, because at 4 to 5, he firmly believed his parents were driving around at night looking for a place to drop him off. So he's spent his life staying in the car. Because as a publicly traded CEO, so when he writes a article, stock drops a little bit, you're fired, you're gone that day. You're at risk every minute of every day. And so he has spent his life staying in that car.
Wow.
And he's made a wonderful profession about it. Now he gets to use all those skills he built trying to stay in the car without the buzz and the freak and the anchor of trying to stay in the car. He's now re-regulated into a fully anchored human, internalizing his own safety, his own mechanisms, his own greatness, his own achievement. That's the new anchor for him. And, now he crushes it.
That's awesome. That's so cool, man.
That gives you an example, right? Of
and it all starts with the breathing. That's profound. I mean, one thing that I've certainly been paying a lot more attention to the breath lately. I've been listening to this book. It's called The Wedge. Have you heard of it?
What's the cover look like?
It's like a blue cover. Looks like
I feel like I've seen it. I haven't read it. I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, so it's a guy who was like a Wim Hof instructor, and what he was essentially looking for was, things that had to do with human performance and how people are able to like change their actual internal process to an external stimuli, like going from like the instinctual like freaking out response to bringing in calm in certain situations. And one of the things that he was talking about was how nasal breathing like makes a massive difference. And I started doing it in jujitsu, like while I'm rolling and while I'm sparring. And that's all. I'm not even focusing on what I'm going to do in the match. I'm only focusing on continuing to breathe through my nose.
Yeah.
And the amount of stupid shit that I stopped doing is staggering. Like I don't do anything like incorrect or like dumb or impulsive when I do that.
Yeah.
Every movement is precise. It's not easy. Like I just started doing it, right? So it's not easy. So I'm getting tired and I'm like really wanting to like open my mouth and breathe or exhale.
Yeah.
But I keep that, and it's like I suddenly am executing on everything I know without thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, we leverage it like with brute force. One of our benchmark workouts is a nasal thruster bladder. So the rule is you can breathe however you need to breathe during work, right? So it's one thruster, and then your nasal breath is your recovery point. So it's one thruster, one nasal breath, two thrusters, two nasal breaths, right? And so you up to 15 and back down, gnarly, especially for the one nostril guy.
Yeah,
but literally, so you're not necessarily nasal breathing during work, but you're exploding, thruster, drops, and then going. I mean, breaks. And even, that's the cool thing about what we're doing at Brute Force, advancing the workouts and the things that we're doing is we're including a lot more breath work into it, a lot more. And everybody comes back and is like, well, what just happened? You can't rush anything.
It's the game.
Everything becomes, and it goes back to exactly what you said. Everything in that moment becomes intentional. If you are a person, and I don't care what breath work you want to do, there's a million gazillion things out there. I stay in my lane with mine when I teach. And then if somebody wants to learn all the other modalities, I say go see great people who really do those. I mean, I do them all. I play with them all. I get them. However, I just like to stay in my lane with just the things that I do because it's relevant to what I teach, right? But just bringing awareness, being intentional about how you're breathing, forces the intention on every other aspect of everything else you're doing. Has to. Yeah. Workout slow down. You get to the end of it, you're like, what just happened?
I'm so grateful that I got to discover that, and this was like a week ago that I started doing this, and it's already, it has made a difference basically immediately. If you're looking for instant result, just focus on your breathing.
Listen, I mean, 3 minutes, It's like literally sit back right now in your chair, roll your shoulders back, relax your chest, relax your shoulders, relax your back, get into this position where nothing's moving up here. Take a solid intentional breath in through the nose, imagining it going all the way down the diaphragm, and move that diaphragm to full extension. Hold for a brief moment, open your mouth, relax your jaw, and just let breath naturally flow out. As if gravity was just like pulling out of the system. No noise, no sound, just let it roll. If you do it, you feel it instantly.
I did.
You feel this wobble instantly.
Yeah, that was cool, man.
3 minutes to that a day, 3 to 5 times a day, your body will be like, oh, I like this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's, there's all kinds of goodness to come from it. Because when you step into being a regulated, or what I call an anchored human being, right? When you're anchored in the present moment to what's happening, to the internal system, the external systems, all the triggers start to kind of dissipate when you've re-anchored all your primary anchors internally, right? So you're a lot less vulnerable, if you will, to life, to the circumstances, situation, because you're not handing your kite to somebody else, right? And expecting them to fly it beautifully for you, because you can't,
Right.
I don't care who you are, you can't.
Mm-hmm. And that's not what you're here to do anyway.
That's what you're here to do. So as you do that and work that process and add that breath and look at the intention, man, life just becomes, and in 8 months, it's 2 weeks, and your body's picking it up on yourself. You're looking around like, your spouse will look at you, be like, what have you been doing? Why are you being so nice? You know what I mean? How did you get to be so calm? Right? What is happening? Right?
Which the assumption is there's something wrong. You're doing something.
You're doing something. What's happening? Right. As I lean into the mic.
What are you voice taking?
Right. What are you on?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm on O2 is what I'm on. I'm on air.
Exactly. But and that is, the medicine, right? That people are so in desperate need of is just breathing.
Hey, listen, man. I mean, and we forget 6, 7, 8, we started to show up at the playground. Right? It's human evolution.
Mm-hmm.
You're showing up. You're now amongst your peers. You're now getting to an age where you have to demonstrate capability. Male or female doesn't matter. But now you're being looked at and assessed, and you're immersing into the community, right? The tribe, if you will, which then requires you to, posture up, roll your shoulders back, get your chest out, look bigger. Just the natural posturing, like go from that relaxed state and sit up a little bit. You naturally want to start breathing shallow. You want to breathe in your chest, right? Because I'm posturing. I show up on the playground. All right, just here. You know what I mean? Like
Bigger.
I'm a big boy. I look bigger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it logically makes sense of what happened. Problem is we don't know it's happening. And then that becomes our position. And then now we are shallow breathers. It's no wonder why we have so much sickness, illness, issues, obesity, like all of it. We're not actually breathing fundamentally the way our bodies were designed to breathe. We're cutting ourselves short every single day. Every single day, you're breathing in your chest. You are not giving the meat sack what it needs to function. It's not you. Pull that out. You're just occupying this freaking thing for whatever this time period is, right? So develop the meat sack. Give the meat sack what the meat sack needs, which is the air in the right form, in the right way, the way it was designed to be given. So just give it back to it. That's all you have to do. It's that easy.
That's amazing. Yeah, I one of my good friends, maybe you know, maybe you don't. His name is George Bryant.
Oh yeah, I know George. Yep.
So George, and all the success and prestige that he has, and if you ever go and watch one of his events or you listen to his podcast, he'll tell you he's like the most important thing to him is stillness and breath work. That's it. That's what he attributes like everything else building upon. It's his ability to be still and to breathe and regulate his breathing. And it makes perfect sense, especially based on what everything you're saying, what I've been experiencing. Like, it's amazing.
Spoke at George's first mastermind.
Oh, did you?
After, I asked
awesome.
him to speak. Yeah.
Yeah.
Time ago.
Yeah. We had, I just went to his recent event when he was here in Austin, and he brought in Stefano Stefandos to him and him, the two of them. They ran a breath work, and the breath work that they did was the like through the mouth, kind of similar to the Wim Hof, that one. And I mean, I've never done that in a group setting until that moment. That blew my fucking mind, man. That was
Dude, there's some powerful. Listen, here's my thing. It's kind of like the meditation practice, right? So we've done a beautiful job of what I call complexifying things, right? Because if I wrap it up and make it sexy and bring some complexity to it, I can charge you a bunch of money to teach it to you.
Correct.
Sorry,
that's what sells.
That's
business.
The way it goes, right? Yeah. Whereas, but what happens in that place is we create something too big for the average person to be like, oh, I want to try this. Right? I mean, you talk to people now, there's been enough out there now. People, like, if you talk to breathwork about people, they instantly go to Wim Hof, diving into cold things, are like, no, I'm not doing that. No, I can't do that. Right? And so there's this big barrier to entry now. Same thing happened with meditation. Same things, we kind of screw ourselves in the world by making these things so enormous and big and complex and everything else, versus, hey, let me give you a really simple technique. Here's what it looks like. Here's kind of here's the background of what happened to you. Okay, I get that. That makes sense. Cool. Here's the pattern I want you to start repeating. And all you got to do is like set an alarm, do it once in the morning, once in the evening, very intentional. And then the other 3 times during the day, just set an alarm. I don't care what you're doing. Just do your best to do it in that context. And that's it. Right? That's all I want you to do. I want you to do that for about 2 weeks. That's all. Can you do that for me? Can you give me, 25 minutes a day max, spread out, Can you do that for me? Most people are going to be like, I could probably do that. Okay, cool. Let's just start there. Let's just start there. And then they feel instant results. Then they're on to the next thing. Then they're wanting to dive in on all the other stuff, which is great. But you got to make it safe. I mean, we're always answering the question of safe. Have we made it safe for someone to come engage with us?
By regulating our own system.
Yeah. And even by the invitation of what it may look like to come play with us, or to come work with us, or to come, do something with us. Like, I fundamentally believe, I'm on a mission now. The coolest thing about taking over brute force and building this fitness brand, we're rebuilding it, right? Pulling it out of the fire, basically. I have a clear mission, and that mission is to create the safest fitness company on the planet.
Wow.
The one place that anyone could come, learn, grow, and develop themselves mentally, physically, or emotionally, and not feel judged, not feel intimidated, and not feel scared to participate. That's what I'm doing every single day. And we've done a pretty good job with it. We got 10,000 people in my Facebook group. The anchor of trust, the anchor of, hey, I'm safe, the shares that come up, the support that, we have participated in the group at a level that we set the stage and standard for communication. And so you don't get crap in our group. You just don't.
Beautiful.
Like, you're gone. Like, I've probably booted in the last 2 years, 2 or 3 people, and then probably shot another 4 or 5 warnings, which is very few for as many people as we have in our group.
Yeah, for 10,000.
Yeah, and I get immediate apologies, or they're just gone. And go ahead, bye.
Because you're creating a container for that specific reality to essentially be birthed there, and for people to be able to experience that. Because if they experience that, they're going to carry that with them, and it's going to spread to everybody.
100%. That's what it's all about. Like, how do I anchor trust and safe? How do I, and the only way that I do that is if I'm fully anchored in my own trust. I trust myself. I trust what I'm doing. I trust who I am, how I'm showing up, and I am good. And I know I'm good. And when I show up that way as a leader, that's what permeates. And people go, oh, I want some of that. Okay, cool. I'm not giving it to you, but I'm going to teach you how to create it for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and as well as I do, the fitness space is a gnarly world.
Yeah, where none of what you described is necessarily common, unfortunately.
Radically uncommon. And I will tell you, I'm not going to name them on the podcast, but there are some real leaders right now across the industry that I'm cultivating into this direction, and they're on board. So
That's beautiful.
yeah, man.
Hey, yeah, I'm on board with that too, man. Like I was already going to be, purchasing brute force equipment for my Kokoro training. That's starting in May.
Yeah.
I'm even more excited and feel better, even better about, participating in a company that's the mission.
I mean, that's what Mark and I talked about, and that's what I think that's one of the things that where Mark and I finally, assimilated on Stop Divine, and I, because he's got a very similar profile. He's got a very similar objective in mind, and we want, I had this saying in brute force, which is, and I hope you're people are okay with a little bit of language.
Of course, yeah.
Which is hard is relative, right? I mean, we all need to be hard at a point in time, but it's contextual and it's relative. Hard is relative, powerful is undeniable. Fuck hard, be powerful. And I think that's what most people in life today are looking for. How can I just be a little more powerful over the shit that shows up in my life? Right? That's what I want every day.
Yeah.
I want to be a little more powerful every day. I want to make a better choice. I want to handle myself a little bit better. I want to eat better. I want to work out harder. I want to produce these results. And we wrap that in a context of being hard or writing it out or this or that. We wrap it in all this negative context. And then we wonder why we're not producing the results that we want to produce.
Yeah.
Right. I just want to be a powerful dude. That's it. I want to show up powerfully. I want to be powerful. I want to live powerfully. I want to feel that way.
How do you define
power? Is not dominance over. Power is internal, settled. I'm good. I'm anchored. I can take pride in myself. I can find my own happiness. I can find my own safe. I can find my own anchor of trust. I'm good. Let's party.
I like that. I'm good. Let's party.
Let's roll. You know what I mean?
My girlfriend and I, we have a friend that we were talking to her one day, and my girlfriend said to her, she said, "You're so confident. Like, where does that come from?" And she's like, "I'm not confident. Like, that's not what you're seeing here. What you're seeing is I'm congruent." And there's a big difference between the two of those things. And it sounds like power and congruence of like, I'm good with me is
very much. Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at confidence, a lot of times we try to, I'm a word guy. If you look at my Instagram, you'll see pictures, but read. Those pictures are just representative of the reframing of the word. And when I did my study at around all the informed stuff, when I was doing the stuff back with the U.S. government, I found these 3 intrinsic traits in like top tier performers across multiple domains: business, military, intelligence, athletes, pro sports, etc. Because I had the doors open to me, and then 3 intrinsic traits kept coming back up. In any of us that would look at it, this is a 1% of a 1%er right here. And one was comfort, right? So this unique, and what I mean by comfort is kind of this unique space to be comfortable being uncomfortable. This anchor of safety existed. I'm okay. Drop me into the back streets of Africa, carrying a backpack at $9. I'm okay. You know what I mean? Wherever I'm going, I'm okay. I may not love it, but I'm okay. So there's this unique ability to operate comfortably, true internal anchor of regulating their own safety. The second piece was confidence. And confidence, root word look at, is faith in self, right? That's confidence. That is faith in myself, which is, again, another primary anchor, right? Trust, faith. I can rely on my training. I can rely on my instincts. I can rely on my intuition. I'm relying on my wisdom, confidence. And then the third, what those unlock is a unique level of creativity. And I say, creativity defined as, I will figure it out. You know what I mean? Like I don't care what comes at me, because nothing's ever going to be the same. It's never going to go as it's planned. It's never going to work the way I thought it would be. But being able to be comfortable and comfortable, having faith in myself, I promise you, I will sort it out. I will figure it out. And those 3 intrinsic traits, and that's scalable, right? But that's what I'm on. I call it your C3 when I teach my stuff. That's what you're always looking for, is how do I elevate those things? But yes, congruent, and that to me, and then if you want to accentuate, like those three operating in sync would be congruence, would absolutely 100% be. That's how I would frame it.
Absolutely. I like that. Yeah, there's the fourth C that that could,
yeah, as a matter of fact, I may drop that. I may be and Vic, and I'll credit you. I always credit everybody. You know, I'll be like, and I was having this great conversation, and Victor brought up this idea that when I hit these three, right, and my scale is up, now I am in congruence. Now I am in alignment. Now I am functioning, and that's what the external world is perceiving, is this person that just has their shit together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I have a phrase, or I guess you'd call it like a mantra or an affirmation. One of those I think would fit this. But something I started saying, I remember I started saying it when I was in the middle of a really difficult martial arts class. And we were like, it was a conditioning class that day of the week. And it was all calisthenics for an hour. And I remember saying this to myself, and it always stuck with me, but it basically grabs all of those C's, where it essentially was, I chose to be here, whether I remember why or not. And the fact that I'm here is all the validation I need. And then I would just like go into the zone, and I'd crush that.
I love it.
The workout was.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, there's just, you know, I mean, and the beautiful thing is we're all jacked up. We all continue to learn. We all continue to grow. You know what I mean? Like, I love it when I teach, because I open up by saying, listen, I am going to violate everything I'm about to tell you probably 500 times today. The only real difference between you and I is I have such a level of awareness that I can either correct it quickly or intersect it before it happens. That's the only difference. All right, that I've just practiced and embodied and engaged, that most times I can either catch it before it happens or clean it up really quick. It's really the only difference between me and anybody else.
Yeah.
You know, or you or anybody else, because everybody has this capacity, you know, to develop and grow and do these things and be an exceptional human being. And yeah, because I'm not going to pretend I'm something I'm not. I will definitely let people down, and I will definitely screw it up constantly. It's just a matter of recognizing it, the awareness to it, and the ability to course correct.
That's right.
The ability to close in that gap, right? Closing that gap from, you know, so it's not 3 or 4 days later, going, oh, I really screwed up. So to like, no, don't say that. No, don't do that.
Right. Well,
yourself.
Because I screwed up it's a conclusive statement, right? It closes the loop. It defines whatever that situation is as being that. Whereas, you know, what is also possible is asking a question of like, what was the purpose? What was the higher purpose of that? What did that need to learn there? What's the gift there? What's the opportunity? However you want to language it. But yeah, I've found that asking a question instead of making a statement when these things happen has served me very well.
Yeah, man. I love it. I love that.
So I got 2 more questions before we wrap up. First one is, if anybody's interested in your work or whatever you got going on and they want to learn how to regulate their nervous system, where can they find you?
Best place right now, one, on Instagram, you could follow me, Mindset06 Actual. I'm going to actually start doing kind of micro teach points, you know, along the way. Now that we're getting stable with Brute Force, just give me a little bit more freedom to contribute there on that platform. That's really the best kind of platform to engage with me or find me or learn or anything else. Then Mindset Radio podcast I ran for quite some time, about to breathe life back into it. We're going to be exploring the set of minds in the human system. And then actually any of the months now leading up. So the book should launch probably next spring is going to be our timeline for it. But I am about probably next month going to open up a couple channels into working through the Anchored Human Project a little bit. There's probably some group, programs, other things, have self-directed, have group work, just so I can finish out a few research points and, be involved. So if anybody's like, ooh, I want to play, they can come over to Mindset Radio, shoot me an email or whatever, shoot me a note or find me on Instagram. So that's all kind of releasing through April, and probably start classing up or cohorting up, May timeframe for it. So yeah, that's mindsetradio.com or Mindset06 Actual on Instagram. And then on the fitness side of things, Brute Force Training on Instagram, bruteforcetraining.com. If you want to pick up some rad gear, we're doing some interesting things over there, right? Sand is out. We're not doing sand. We sell, quote unquote, we're selling the first sandless sandbag now ever.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, I know I'm going to get my hands on one soon. So,
man, I'm telling you, it's a different game. Yeah, it's the filler, what we've redone there, and the approach we're taking now. It's a different game, and it's such a great workout. I mean, it's one of the things that now, having studied it and put some biofeedback to it and watched what's happening in the central nervous system versus like a CrossFit workout or other modalities. It is intrinsically nailing the CNS up and down in a different way. And we're finding that it's developing a greater level of adaptive capacity, which is the ability to, hold more stress with less cost on the system. It is improving recovery period significantly. You just get so much out of a 30-minute workout on that bag. It's just like, because it's requiring so much adjustment, compensation, movement, injury rates go down. You're working all the connective tissue, all the neuromuscular connectivity, all your stabilizers are being worked constantly because everything's in motion, shifting no matter what. It's not a linear world anymore. And so yeah, a lot of fun over there. So they check out, and, Mo's great, and apps out. So, a lot of good stuff. Like if you're a fitness person or you're scared or intimidated on the fitness side of things, like it's, most of our people, they're working their butts off every day, and if they get 30 minutes on the sandbag in the garage or in the house or something at the end of the day or beginning of the morning, they feel like victors. You know what I mean? They're like just powerfully. There's a visceral thing about it.
Oh yeah.
And so it's a very safe space to come in and begin to express and begin to learn and begin to grow and take on, our challenges include mindfulness. And, we teach a lot and really put a lot of effort into the community, mentally and physically as much, or mentally and emotionally as much as physically. So beautiful. Yeah. So that's where you can,
I like it.
That's where you can nail me down.
I'll be there. I mean, I got Kokoro coming up, so I know I'm definitely going to be getting some of that equipment. I'm really excited to train with the sandless sandbag moving forward.
Yeah, you'll call me and be like, I hate you.
For now.
Like, I love you, but I hate you. I love you, but this sucks.
It's the full spectrum of it.
It's all of it. Just all packaged in. I'll send it to you with a bow that says, have fun.
Perfect. Does it also make a difference when you're rucking with it? Because I know there's the ruck attachment.
Yeah. So we're quietly, we'll be rolling out into equipment soon.
All right, cool.
It will include some of our core components because I was built to rock. Thanks, Mom. I got her birthing house. I was built to, I was designed to jump out of airplanes and carry heavy shit long distances. So,
beautiful.
Yes.
Well, I'm very new to rucking, so I'm looking forward to developing my abilities there.
Well, man, and then you'll do our long walk, which is the journey through uncertainty, fear, trust, and ultimately freedom. I've done that project now with a lot of sports teams, a lot of corporate people. It's a gnarly event that's a gnarly event. It's worth it, right? It's not a race. It's a point of accomplishment. When you get to the end, you have a total different context for life.
Amazing. Well, I'm definitely in on that. So
yeah.
My last question for you, Jeff, is,
sir.
So the whole context of these interviews is that Zen Stoic philosophy aims at liberation, but the philosophy itself is not liberation. It's just a tool that points in that direction. So on these interviews, my aim is to bring in people who are exemplary of, or who have a mission that is also creating liberation in the world for people. So what does it mean to you to live a liberated life?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. I mean, I think, I would have answered that question differently a few years ago. And today it is internalizing my key anchors, my primary anchors, right? I mean, that's because I'm now in control of me and my behavior and how I navigate the world. And I wasn't for a very long time, right? Always kind of looking for somebody to hold my safe, always looking for somebody to hold my love, always looking for somebody to hold my joy, always looking for somebody to hold my trust. And, to be liberated is to be free of the constraints and the constructs that force me into a way that does not resonate with my system.
Mm.
And, I used to say my life expectancy of the FBI would be about 32.30 seconds. I'm a resistor by nature. And of course, that's why I got to work for the CIA, because, it's like just fire or forget. Just throw Jeff out into an airplane somewhere in the world and let him figure it out.
He'll figure it out.
Don't tell me how to do it. Don't give me a construct. Don't give me a model. Let me go figure it out. But that is, to me, I believe as human beings, for us to be our best selves, we need to understand and have internally freedom and authority. And we have the freedom and authority to act or produce the results that we want. And that's first created internally and then spoken and developed externally, in my opinion. But that's liberation to me. Like, that is that essence where I am not reliant on other people from a mental or emotional standpoint, right? I mean, I believe physically we can rely on each other for many things that we need to and we support, right? That's humanness, that's tribe, that's connection, that's all these things, and even mental and emotional support along the way, right? We have to have these connections, but I'm not draining those others around me, right? To try to replace something. I'm here and I'm giving as much as I'm getting, and it's this flow. And we're all regulated. We're all kind of anchor humans in a way, right? When we become that, then we're collectively operating at a different level. But hopefully that answers your.
Oh, it most definitely does. I think that's a phenomenal answer.
I mean, and I would say, man, I lived a completely unliberated life up until about 45 or 46.
Yeah. Wow.
And I thought I was good.
Not when you don't have that one fundamental thing.
We'll just leave that at the choice.
That's right. I like it.
But today, I wake up every day stoked.
Amazing.
Even when things aren't going well, I still wake up pretty stoked.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for being on the show, man. This has been amazing. I know I'll definitely be re-listening to this thing and putting these breathing things into practice, because I'm like, all right, I got to get my training optimized. Here we go. Oh, let's start with the breath.
Yeah, just play with it. Like, just play. That's what I tell people that all the time. Like, we're just going to play. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, we're going to play. Like, we're just going to be playful at this stuff. Don't take it too seriously. Don't regiment. Because then it'll go away. Like, seriously, go back to being 5.
Mm-hmm.
With everything you do, be a 5-year-old.
Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome, brother. Well, thank you so much. And looking forward to the book and to putting these things into practice. Thank you again for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.